Let the recording show -19 and another foot of snow yesterday. All right, it breeds a tougher stock. That's my thought. Well, very good. It's 8:30. I believe we can kick this off. We'll go ahead and call to order the second day, February 23rd, of the Workforce Development Council's meeting, quarterly meeting. And we'll start that with a roll call. Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Mark Gordon or designee. Senator Fred Baldwin. Jim Engel. Ron Wild.
Present.
Tony Cross. Dick Smith. Vice Chair Eric Trowbridge. Larry Fodor.
Present.
Michael Kircher.
Present.
Katie Legursky. Chairman Libera.
Present.
Tina Conley.
Present.
Mark Madsen. Nathan Williams. Philip Cornella. Brenda Morgan.
Present.
Michelle Butler. Danny Bureau.
Present.
Stacy Strasser.
Present.
Charlie Wilson.
Present.
Tammy Johnson. Director Robin Cooley.
Present.
Commissioner Robert Short.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Nikki Harper.
Present.
Mayor Matt Hall. Superintendent Degenfelder or designee.
Present.
Josh Durrell or designee.
Present.
Corinne Schmidt or designee. Dr. Sandra Caldwell or designee.
Present. Present.
Katie Hogarty.
Present.
Travis Lawrence.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have quorum. Mr. Chairman, you are muted.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. I told you I would do that at least once during this meeting. I never failed to deliver. Anyway, I want to go ahead and just dive right into our agenda today because A, I'm super excited about this topic. B, I want to honor CEO Durrell's time of the Wyoming Business Council. We're honored to have him here speaking today and sharing with us some exciting news around a project that's been brewing, I believe, for years now, and is truly a success story of various agencies coming together and laying some groundwork to ensure that we've got a sustainable economic future. So, with very little introduction, I'll let Josh Durrell, CEO of Business.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for taking some time this morning to listen about this opportunity. My name is Josh Durrell. I'm the CEO of the Wyoming Business Council, and for the last, well, gosh, way before I became this in this role, many agencies in the state began working with a company in Laramie called, at the time, Bright Agrotech. A number of years ago, it was a startup from the University of Wyoming in the plant sciences area, and they started out as a company that was looking to build equipment for indoor farming and really began to pivot and to try to understand how they can make a bigger impact on the world, and really how could they turn this into a global changing business, not just one that was sort of a good business, but really kind of almost like a lifestyle business. And so Dr. Nate Story teamed up with some other folks from the Bay Area, and they began to look at how could they do indoor farming, and we could call it indoor farming, or you could call it let's see, it's called controlled environment precision ag. So controlled environment precision ag is another way to say this. And it's all indoor farming, and it's vertical farming. So it's done in a way that's pretty unique. And one of the things that's pretty awesome about this opportunity is not only did it start from, one person's ideas about how this works, and then we took them through the startups at the Wyoming Technology Business Center, and then spawned them off, and they utilized a Wyoming Business Council grant to build their first building and employ a number of people, and then look to grow and expand that. And now we've helped them with an R&D facility that will begin building in early. I think it'll be this spring. We'll begin breaking ground and working on that here in Laramie. And the exciting part is that it's going to take the people that they have right now. There's around 80 people in Laramie working on this, to up to 200 people in the next few years. And that's a pretty aggressive, there's a really aggressive growth in the number of employees that they have. These are very technical professions. Actually, it's all the way from the trades to very highly technical research scientists. So it's a good span of employees and folks to the, to our communities. And I think it's a great opportunity for a number of agencies to be part of. And this is something that Director Cooley and I have been working together on since we started this process about a year ago, talking about how we could retain this R&D facility and retain not only the workforce, but then grow it. And what's super exciting about this opportunity, and it's something I do think we need to focus on, not just the 80 to 100, or excuse me, not just the 200 employees that work for Plenty, but it's also important to know that the way Plenty wants to develop this is they want to create a cluster of development around their facility for all of their vendors, for some of their customers, for some of their competitors to come in and truly make this the indoor farming hub of the world. And so when you think about the opportunity that's there, it's not just that, how do we find 120 people to fill those roles that they want? It's how do we develop this cluster? And workforce is obviously going to be a huge component of that. And so they have already, in their short time in Laramie, have spun off a number of businesses that are small, maybe 3 to 10 people businesses that are already working closely with them. And I think that's the beginning of what will be much more. And so I think it's important for this group to really begin to think about how we all work together to make it as easy as possible to develop that workforce, but also to show the collaboration in how easy it is to work in Wyoming. And that's something that was highlighted about a week ago, or it might have even been early this week. They seem to run together for me, Director Cooley. I'm sure they do for you too. But Director Cooley was kind enough to bring her entire team to talk with representatives from Plenty about how to access the services that the Department of Workforce Services has around recruiting, around upskilling, around making sure that they're getting the training that they need. And so it was a great example of how easy it is to work in Wyoming. And I think that's a key component of that. So if more and more of those opportunities arise, which they will, I know we'll be, all of us on this call, and we'll be ready to go and ready to take advantage of that opportunity. Unless I guess what I would like to do is just open it up, because it's such an exciting opportunity. It's something that from an industry perspective, we all have to eat. this addresses some real challenges in agriculture of things that don't compete with Wyoming ag at all, but are opportunities for Wyoming to kind of broaden and diversify its ag portfolio. And so I think it's a really cool way to team up with all of the higher education, the trades, and all of the workforce development in order to build this cluster. And so I'll stand for questions now and let you guys do a little bit more talking. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Josh. We'll open it up for anybody who has any questions. I see a couple raised hands. I'll start with Robert Short.
No offense, Mr. Chairman, but I think Tamsin Johnson was before me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Tammy, go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Robert. Josh, this is really exciting, especially given the, Laramie's doesn't have the other things that a lot of communities have, like mineral industry. Can you share with us, and I'm sorry, I was trying to get on a broken link, I think, so I may have missed it, what the wage package and benefit package will be for the workers, and, what kinds of jobs, if they're administrative down to, the pickers, and I assume they'll have pickers, what those wages and benefits are going to look like?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Tammy, and that's a good question. One thing I do want to say is, and maybe this will help a little bit frame it up. So this is the research and development facility for Plenty's global operations. They have a farm in Compton, California. They are starting a farm in Virginia. They will have farms ultimately all over the place, as close to their customers and as close to big population centers as possible, especially at the beginning. So this one, while it will have all of the operations to basically run a farm, this will not be a production farm. So what this will be is more of the research scientists. It'll be more of the tradespeople, and just as an aside, they don't use a whole lot of pickers because all of this is really done robotically. So it's kind of an exciting and a different way to look at it. But the wages, Tammy, for this particular operation, the median wage is $30.25 an hour, which is about 55%, I believe, over the county median in Albany County. But those wages are going to span, so that's median, not average. And those wages are going to span from that, kind of in that ballpark all the way up to the, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for research scientists. So we're going to have a really good broad span of opportunities, and Plenty as a whole has been, they have an attractive benefits package. They take really good care of their employees. And so all of those things are part of that, but thanks for the question.
Yeah. Do you know what the bottom is? Because the low wage jobs are the ones that are concerning for workers in the state.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, Tammy, but I'd be happy to see if I could get that rounded up for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Josh.
You bet.
Thank you, Tammy. Robert?
Thank you, Chairman Libera, and thank you, Director Durrell, for joining us. I'm really fascinated by this topic because of the implications that it has for nutrition across the entirety of our state. With that in mind, I have a few questions. The first one being, how does this differentiate from, traditional greenhouse growing? What is that actual, clear separation from greenhouse growing?
Yeah, so that's a really also a really good question, and in a lot of ways you can think of it like greenhouses. And so if you're into that type of thing, the Dutch are the masters of the greenhouse world. In fact, they've been utilizing greenhouses a long time, and they became the center of the greenhouse universe many years ago for food production in Europe. And so just a great number of the food in Europe and even over the world are grown in greenhouses in the Netherlands. They have, and I can't pronounce the name, but they have basically the epicenter of greenhouse growing in the Netherlands. What makes this different is that you are still not dependent upon sunlight and things like that, and it's all vertical. And the other part of it is that you're controlling more of the elements than a greenhouse does. So you're controlling the lighting, you're controlling the water, you're controlling things at a tighter, really kind of more controlled environment than in that. And I don't know the specifics 100%, but the other part of it is that you're able to, rather than spread out and have a big footprint like you do in a greenhouse, you're able to take that footprint and make it vertical. And so the farm in Compton, I believe, is an 8-meter tall growing tower. So you can imagine 20, what is that, between 25 and 27 feet or so of growing space vertically. And as they continue to do these, they'll continue to take that higher. So I think that the next one is going to be even taller. They say that the one in Compton is going to be their smallest farm, and it's kind of an engineering marvel in itself. And so it's differentiated by the greenhouse, the greenhouses, because of its footprint and also because of the way they control certain elements of the growing process. Did that help?
Oh, absolutely. And it kind of plays into my next question then. This, as they work on developing more and more of the understanding and the technological advances associated with this kind of growing, does this technology have portability wherein we can actually have more than a single entity involved in growing? Because obviously that monopolistic kind of farming model doesn't really sit well with many of us. We'd like to see a diversification in those folks who actually have the ability to both employ and deploy that farm to table model across the state.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to remember is that this is the beginning of really a brand new industry. And so the yields that they're getting for vegetables and the things that they're able to do are basically setting world records, which is pretty exciting. But one of the things that we like to think about, or that we maybe don't always think about enough, is the market that they can address. And so one of the things that they'll be working with, and they're working with major supermarkets and major fruit and vegetable companies, is to place those farms as close to as close to their customers as possible. So you think about Compton, California, it's basically a food desert, and they can reach a huge amount of people, millions and millions of people, within a day's truck drive. And so in Virginia, where they're launching their next farm, I think they said they have some access to, within 2 or 3 days, of 100 million people. So just so that's the way it'll start. But over time, you're right, it'll begin to impact the way food is delivered. I think one thing that's pretty exciting about this, and not to get too geeked up about the technology, but your average head of lettuce goes like 2,000 miles today before it reaches a customer. The thing that their idea is that you could put these farms in places that you normally can't grow lettuce or tomatoes or strawberries. You could think of Laramie, Wyoming as not exactly the Fertile Crescent there. And so, but yet they're able to do that. And so what happens is that because of the way it's processed, it's also got like a 2-week head start in freshness. And so it's pretty incredible what I think they'll be able to do. But again, this is the very beginning of it. And I think what we need to understand in Wyoming is that we have such a good opportunity to develop that cluster of research and science. And the university is on board. The community colleges with WIP have been closely tied into this. I think there's just a really good opportunity for us to kind of leverage all of our assets on this one cluster and make a big difference. So thanks for the questions.
Thank you. That's great stuff.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful opportunity for us to bring the message of nutrition to the schools in Wyoming, to youth. I mean, it hits on so many factors, Josh. It's just such a massive win. Director Cooley, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh, thank you so much. And I think your knowledge base, as you speak to this company and about this company, really speaks to how the work and the effort that you and your team put into working with these companies to bring them to Wyoming. So thank you for that. And I put your excellent article or opinion piece that you wrote, I put it in the chat here for everyone to read. It really speaks to, keeping our kids here in Wyoming. And I really like how you talk about that because that is everything we hear throughout this state. But as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking we're talking clusters, and in your article you talk about clusters in other areas, and I wonder Because we aren't doing this now. I'm just wondering if the business council is actively going out and recruiting businesses for these clusters. And if so, boy, we'd like to join you in that effort. Do we need to be more aggressive is what I'm saying in bringing the businesses in for these clusters?
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes. So yes, we are actively recruiting. Yes, we think it's a great idea to continue to work together. And yes, we think that if we can continue to develop these clusters, then sometimes they'll take on a life of its own, right? And if you think about it like this, and this is kind of the way I think about a cluster, I started out in the late 90s in really more of a technology sector. And so it was all computer programming and working to develop the internet applications and things. And when you're starting out in Laramie, Wyoming, there were exactly one employer doing that, right? Or it seemed like. And so you didn't have a whole lot of mobility. And so the more companies that we can build around this, where people have the mobility to move from company to company and they don't feel stuck, they're not only going to be able to, we're going to attract more, but we're going to be able to give opportunities to people where they think, oh, I can stay in Wyoming and have that mobility from company to company. And so your question about how do we continue to do that, definitely working together on recruiting is going to be key. We are attending we're doing that with manufacturing, with data centers, and with food production now as well. We're actually at a show in this weekend that starts off this weekend in Vegas to begin to talk to other vendors and other people that are in this space with Plenty. So we're working together with them. And so I think it's really key that, and we would be happy to bring people along in that, Director Cooley, and in terms of taking them to shows or to just making sure that there's a connection. All of us on this call, maybe not all of us, but I definitely take it for granted sometimes how easy it is to get answers in Wyoming, right? So when I have a question, Director Cooley, your team is on the spot immediately. That doesn't happen in other states. And I think it's important for all of us to realize that the network that we have and how quickly we can utilize that network in Wyoming is a key driver for those companies. So yeah, we will definitely continue to work together on that. I think our workforce training, not just the money, but the services that we have for that, it's unparalleled in the US, at least the access to it.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions for Josh? I have one, Josh. So can we envision Plenty's expansion kind of impacting programs at UW and our colleges down the road? Have those conversations already begun, or?
Yeah, they have. In fact, President Seidel and Steve Farkas, who is in the Office of Research and Development as well as Economic Development, they both attended trips to the Plenty operations in California. And they, I don't know if anyone saw it, but the same day that the Plenty deal was announced from the governor, the University of Wyoming also had an announcement about their controlled environment, precision agriculture curriculum that they were kicking off. And so there are really tight ties there already. And again, WIP is also involved to make sure that the community colleges have an opportunity to understand what's happening and address those needs. So, the cool thing is that there have been a lot of connections and a lot of collaboration behind the scenes. And now I think we're going to see it really, really take off.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Josh before we let him resume his day? Well, again, what an amazing opportunity. And yes, if there's any ways that the council or Director Cooley and her team can be of assistance, please keep us posted. We're eager to join the effort to make sure that this is a success, because this is a wonderful opportunity for the state.
Well, I just appreciate everyone's time today and listening and thinking about it. And and I guess maybe I could put my contact information in the chat or something to make sure that everybody has it, but I definitely want to, hear more of the ideas of how we can collaborate, and also opportunities for clustering and for developing those clusters, because they are really, really important to our workforce to make sure that they have multiple opportunities in a community, because that's a hard thing when you have, exactly one opportunity. You don't always have, you don't always feel like you really do have any opportunities. So I think it's important for us to continue to develop those clusters. So thanks for your time today, and I'll shoot my email address into the chat here. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for coming in, taking some time to share this with us. Very exciting. Excellent. We're a couple minutes ahead. We'll go ahead and jump into the Workforce Development Training Fund update. So Shay and Sharon and Ivy, if you guys wouldn't mind taking the mic.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Sharon today, at least for the moment. I am having some technical difficulties on working with IT to get my computer figured out. So I wanted to just hop on here and go ahead and get us started. Kari, are you going to be sharing the slides, or Jennifer? I guess I could, right?
As a reminder, we all have these in our meeting materials folder. If the screen gets a little small for you and you want to expand it out, feel free to open up those presentations and follow along.
Thank you, Kari. All right. Well, thank you everyone for having us today. We're happy to be here. Sorry that we could not meet in person, but this was definitely the safer way to go. So I'm glad nobody had to be out on these roads. My name is Shay Moon. For those of you that might not know me, I am the Business Training and Support Unit Program Manager here at the Department of Workforce Services. And with me today, I have Sharon Geisler, who I'm with in her office right now, but she is here, and Ivy Moore. Sharon is the Workforce Development Training Fund Program Lead, and Ivy is the Apprenticeship Lead. So they're here with me today, and between the three of us, we're certain that we can answer any questions that you have about the grants. Go ahead. So let's just go ahead and start with the business training grant. I know some of you, probably most of you have heard us talk about the grants and what they do. I just want to give a quick recap for those that maybe don't know or just need to hear it again, what the different grants are under the training fund and what they do and how they can help businesses. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of those limits and what those look like. So we have our business training grant. This grant specifically is meant to help those businesses that want to send their current employees to training. And so they're wanting to correct a skill deficiency or upgrade their skill level in their occupation. This is one grant that we saw a pretty significant increase in usage post rule change back about last summer timeframe. So we have seen a huge growth in this grant, and a lot of employers are utilizing this and applying for this grant. This now allows up to $4,000 per trainee per state fiscal year for those industries that are considered non-preferred. It actually allows for up to $5,000 per trainee per state fiscal year for those industries that are preferred. We do have a cap for that grant that is $200,000 per business per state fiscal year. So that means that each of those trainees would be eligible for that $4,000 or $5,000 amount. We received a lot of really positive feedback that this increase has really made a difference in the business's ability to send individuals to training, and really helps to actually make sure that cost is pretty much covered. So that's definitely a really positive thing that we're hearing from businesses. Okay, go ahead. We have our internship grant, also extremely popular. This was another grant that we saw a pretty big increase in usage post rule change. This is available to businesses to host internship opportunities. This grant is one that is just people are really, really excited about, especially. And we increased the limit. So now we can reimburse per intern up to $25 an hour. We do look at the industry. We do look at kind of the average wage in that field. So maybe not everybody is going to be able to, not every business is going to be able to be reimbursed up to $25 an hour. But we do see some that are, and I would say probably a lot of the time we're seeing in the $18 to $22 range. In terms of what people are hiring those interns on at. So if people have questions, we're able to kind of help them navigate through that process of figuring out where they should bring that person in. Businesses are now eligible for up to 6 internships, which is pretty huge. Now we do look at the business's capability, excuse me, the business's capability to support those internships. We want to make sure that it's a good structured learning experience and that they have the mentorship that comes with a good internship. So we do look at that to see how many internships would be ideal for that business, but they are eligible if they can support those interns for up to 6 internships. I would say we probably see the most we generally see is about 4 internships. Most people aren't requesting the full 6, although we do have maybe 1 or 2 larger companies that are utilizing that higher limit at 6 interns. And then we have registered apprenticeship programs are actually eligible for up to 10 internships to assist businesses in the recruitment of apprentices. So that can be an incentive, to help grow registered apprenticeship programs. All right, if we want to move on, thank you. Our pre-hire economic development grant. This grant is available to develop an industry-specific workforce for businesses when there's a shortage of skilled workers. This application has some different parts, and it's a partnership to complete that application between the training provider that's going to be providing that training and instruction, the local economic development entity, wherever that, whatever that entity looks like in your area. We want to make sure that the business is connected with them to move forward with that application. The local workforce center, and then businesses experiencing that shortage of skilled workers. So it is a combination of several different entities coming together for that application. All right, go ahead. We have our pre-obligation grant. This one is used in cases, I would say, just to kind of give you an idea, we haven't, I think we just did one, and it was really the first one that we had done here, certainly for Sharon and myself. So that was a really interesting experience. And what this is really allows businesses to do is to expand in Wyoming, or it incentivizes businesses to move into the state because we are able to pre-obligate this funding for them. So even though this is a way of obligating the funding is still accessed through applying for the business training grants or applying for the pre-hire grants. So that can be a little confusing, but that is something I just wanted to mention, that pre-obligation grant is really just a way of pre-obligating that money for it then to run through those 2 different grant programs. Another unique thing about the pre-obligation grant, which can be really beneficial for businesses, is that they can access up to the amount equivalent to 200 trainees. So if they have 200 trainees that they want to send to training, and they are a preferred industry, so I think that's $5,000, then they would be eligible for up to 200 times $5,000, which I think is around $1 million. Is that right, Sharon? So in some cases that could be the case. So this is kind of a unique piece to the pre-obligation grant that really allows those additional trainees and that funding. Go ahead. I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Ivy Moore for a few minutes to talk about registered apprenticeships and things that we have going on in the unit related to apprenticeship.
Shay, if I can just break in just briefly before we jump off this topic, because there is a lot in here. I do want to open it up real quick if there's any questions that anyone has for Shay regarding these various programs.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, it's Charlie Wilson.
Thank you, Charlie. Go ahead.
I was just curious, how we define preferred industries.
Good question. Shay?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but and I don't want to misspeak, but we define the preferred industries. Those are really set by the council and through the work with the next gen groups as well around the state. But our preferred industries have been identified as construction, finance and insurance, healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing, technology, and hospitality and tourism. So any of those would qualify for the $5,000 per trainee per fiscal year.
Terrific. Great. Thank you. I probably should have known that. Thanks.
No, it's all right.
That's a great question, Charlie. I appreciate you asking that because it plays in a number of different areas when we talk about these strategic sectors and business industries that are critical to the state's economic future. And so being reminded of those is always a good thing. So thank you very much for that question. Any other questions for Shay?
Yeah.
I will just interject briefly. You know, I first want to say thank you to the subcommittee, the Workforce Development Training Fund subcommittee that gets together periodically, and the amazing team at DWS that puts together, you know, in effect, kind of really walks through the application process with the applicants. They put together a nice little package. These are summarized, they're brought to our attention. They really ask all the hard questions before we ever even see the final result. But when they're synopsized down to these packages that we evaluate and determine whether that we're going to fund them or not, it's a pretty cool process to be a part of. I know a lot of work goes into it behind the scenes, and I do appreciate the time that the 5 subcommittee members that are part of the council put towards doing this. So thank you very much. I know that just for a little bit of context, I mean, we do receive a lot of the apprenticeship grant applications, and those typically have gone to organizations that are training providers in the trades. We have a technology player that's involved. They go into healthcare, but typically it's plumbing, HVAC. I mean, I think even recently, didn't we have one for like a lineman?
Yeah, we did.
We did. So, and that's, you know, that's an average median pay in the country of $78,000. I didn't even know that was still a need. The director filled me in and said, oh yeah, we absolutely have a need for linemen around the state. And so we're looking to potentially work with that organization, a business, to up their apprenticeships and see if we can put more into the pipeline. So that's interesting. The business training grants is always kind of an interesting one for me. I know we're sensitive to sharing specific information about the organizations that are applying, but I would look for some, Shay, if you and Sharon and team can kind of walk this through a little bit to give us a little bit of context as a council in terms of what types of business training grants we have been granting, either in terms of total dollars, you know, the industries that they serve, you know, perhaps the number of times businesses do come back to request those on an annual basis, just something around that. And that's obviously not a request for today, but maybe down the road, if we can provide an update for the council that provides a little bit more information on that part of the grant programs, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fabian, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, we are going to touch on that a little bit as we kind of continue to move through these slides. So I think we're going to be able to answer some of those questions.
Oh, good. So I just cut you off. I'm sorry.
No.
All right. Very good. Very good. Any other questions for Shay before we move on? Oh, Brennan Morgan's got her hand up. And I missed it yesterday. Brenda, I will not miss you today. So go ahead, please.
No, that is fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shay, I just had a quick question on the business training grant. What is considered the state's fiscal year?
July 1st to June
Okay, thank you.
30th.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Great, thank you. We can go ahead and continue on then.
All right, Ivy, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you, Shane. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
Chairman.
you.
So many of you may be familiar with the apprenticeship grant, but my name is Ivy Moore and I'm the apprenticeship program lead underneath the business training and support unit. And for review, this grant is available to Wyoming registered apprenticeship sponsors and the related instruction providers that are associated with those Wyoming-based sponsors. The apprenticeship grant reimburses for the expenses that occur during that formal related instruction component of an apprenticeship program. Some data for you all. We currently have 88 registered apprenticeship programs in the state of Wyoming, and that covers 44 different occupations underneath those programs, which is really exciting. We have 396 apprentices in the state of Wyoming, and 56 of those actually completed June 2022. Another really interesting piece of data, as far as youth apprentices go, that's that age range of 16 to 24. That accounts for approximately 43% of all of our apprenticeships, which is really exciting, and it leads me into my next slide. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you very much. So the Department of Workforce Services was awarded one of our ARPA proposals, and this proposal is for a pre-apprenticeship grant. The purpose of this grant is really for us to develop pre-apprenticeship programs focusing on career pathways for in-school youth. There are going to be some prerequisites for the applicants that will actually apply for this grant opportunity. And that includes household income limits will be below the 300% federal poverty guideline, and or their household has to have experienced unemployment or underemployment as a result of the pandemic. Go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to give you guys some of the highlights of this proposal and what some of our grant goals are going to be. So we are going to be continuing the work that we're doing to expand registered apprenticeship programs. We'll still be utilizing the WDTF apprenticeship grant to expand and support registered apprenticeship, but we're really going to be shifting our focus a little bit to connecting these youth with those opportunities across the state. We're really going to be focusing on supporting that pipeline of workers by connecting high school student youth with the opportunities around the state to gain post-secondary credentials while still in high school. With this grant opportunity, we'll also be able to provide a completion award of $1,500 per student that actually completes the pre-apprenticeship programs that we're going to be setting up. And then we're also going to be able to provide $1,000 worth of supportive services to those participating students. And those supportive services will actually be aligned with WIOA. What that means is that we're going to be defining our supportive services in alignment with WIOA. And if a student actually qualifies for WIOA, we'll use that funding first and use those programs and that supplemental support for those students. And then if they don't qualify for WIOA, we would supplement this $1,000 of supportive services for those same opportunities. Lastly, something that I'm particularly very excited for is our Modern Apprenticeship Hub. So this will be an apprenticeship website specific for Wyoming. It'll be encompassing registered apprenticeship information, pre-apprenticeship information, really to meet all of our audiences in Wyoming. This will really be developed and utilized to bridge the gap that's between state students and employers. We've really gotten a lot of feedback from not only students not knowing how to connect with employers, but also employers who want to connect with these students, and there's that gap. We're really going to be promoting these pre-apprenticeship opportunities across the state of Wyoming within our high schools, and we'll even be diving into the middle schools a little bit as well. And we can go into the next slide, please. Lastly, I just want to talk about what we've already been doing as far as youth apprenticeship outreach. So we connect directly with our high schools across the state. that's in various ways. We actually have informational booths during lunch hours where we set up, and it's free for students just to come and talk to us and have some dialogue about what the opportunities are across the state. We also participate in career fairs across our school districts. We host classroom and auditorium presentations. These have actually been really well received because the teachers actually coordinate these presentations and have it's during class time. And we actually have had some of our employers and our sponsors participate in those presentations, and they've been really well received. We've additionally had virtual Q&A events. A lot of those have been hosted during our National Apprenticeship Weeks. Those have been, on and off, really well received. I think that these have been a great opportunity post-pandemic for students to connect with employers all over the state. Previously, we have participated in the Workforce Wednesdays. This was an industry-focused virtual meeting that was hosted by the Department of Education Career and Technical Education team. This allowed us to actually break down apprenticeship information by industry for the career and technical education teachers to receive and ask questions and open dialogue. Lastly, we do collaborate on a regular basis and share information with the Department of Education, the CTE teams across the state, and career counselors within our high schools. And with that, I would open for any questions about apprenticeships, the grant that we have, and the work that we're pursuing.
Thank you, Ivy. That was great. I love hearing about the outreach that we do to share the good word on these programs. Tammy, you have your hand up. You have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ivy. That's a great presentation. I was curious on the slide, a few slides back, you had the number of registered apprenticeship programs. I think maybe just apprenticeship programs in the state. There is 55 or maybe go forward one slide. I think it was, no, maybe. Anyway, there was a slide that showed the number of apprenticeship programs in the state. And I was curious if that included the union programs. Oh yeah, 88 registered apprenticeship programs. If that included the union registered apprenticeship programs. And then I'm also curious if you could go into a little detail about the bill that passed and how that's going to interface with the current apprenticeship programs that we currently have. And I know that puts a lot on you guys, it puts a lot on the schools, but how you will be engaging the current registered apprenticeship programs in that effort to get information to schools.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. So that data that I had on the apprenticeship slide, the 88 registered apprenticeship programs, so that data was actually provided by the Wyoming Office of Apprenticeship. And so that number includes all registered apprenticeship programs, whether they're unionized or not.
Union.
Yes, correct. Sorry, pardon me. And then as far as the bill goes, so this is actually, we see this as a really great opportunity and a benefit to our students across the state. This bill is really going to allow us to collect data and provide a report to all of the school boards, allowing students to understand and have a better idea of what opportunities are out there. And this bill is really going to encompass data that includes registered apprenticeship programs, internships, and work-based learning opportunities across the state. So really, this isn't just going to be, I'd say, DWS gathering this data. It's going to be a joint collaboration of a lot of different entities so that we can have correct data as far as those opportunities go.
I guess I wasn't asking so much about the data collection. That'll be nice for you guys to have for sure. But I'm more interested in, so we have 88 registered apprenticeship programs. And maybe this is part of your future planning, but we knew this bill was coming for a long time. So how will I be working with you to help get that information out about our registered apprenticeship programs? And you modeled in one of the slides that somebody will be going to schools during classrooms, lunch hours, that kind of stuff. I'm asking if you would be tapping into us to be part of that, or if the plan is that your staff will be going out doing that, or how will you be coordinating those 88 registered apprenticeship programs to get their faces into the schools? Or do you plan to maybe? Maybe I'm making a big assumption.
No, absolutely. We definitely plan on having a presence in the school. You know, I definitely think that our staff will be present in the schools, doing presentations, talking about, just really educating about registered apprenticeship programs and the benefit of those to those students. But it's really going to be a joint collaboration. We absolutely want to collaborate with all of our sponsors across the state and also get you guys in the schools. We'd love for you guys to speak to those students directly as well. As far as coordinating that, I think that's just going to need some further planning and more discussion as maybe a strategic plan goes.
Yeah. Thank you, Ivy. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions? Oh, I see Brenda, you have a hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ivy, I was curious about the hub. Is that going to be hosted by DWS, or do you envision that's going to be maybe a third party that's going to manage that hub? Because I know we've tried to do like web pages and stuff to collect all of that information, all the registered apprenticeships, for example, in the trades. I was just curious, who's going to be the point of contact for maintaining that hub?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So we've actually started our research a little bit about developing that hub. We'll be utilizing a web designer to actually create that page so that it's done very well. And we've been looking at some of our partners that we've already utilized for like the DWS website, for some of our other web pages that we have. But as far as maintaining that website, I believe that we will be taking on that opportunity of maintaining the website. Something that's really great about this ARPA opportunity is that we're able to bring on an additional staff with this grant. So that staff member will actually have a lot of that responsibility as far as maintaining and updating that website.
Yeah, thank you. I just kind of have the same sentiments as Tammy. It feels like sometimes we're out here, we exist, but people forget to invite us to the table sometimes. So I just want to make sure that we can stay on the radar and contact the right people to get our information provided to the schools and to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with bringing you guys to the table. As far as this grant opportunity goes and that modernized hub, I definitely think that we're going to need some sort of work group or strategic work group, just making sure we're developing that to the best of its ability and having all of the information, you know, A through Z all the way around.
Great. Thank you very much. Good question, Brenda. Appreciate that, Ivy. Any other questions before we let Ivy and Shay move on with third day? It sounded poetic. No? Well, oh, go ahead. Looks like you got a new slide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'll
I'm sorry,
actually be, no worries. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll actually be handing it off to Sharon Geisler.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take these because I'm in the seat. So just for keeping things fluid, I'll just go ahead and take these slides coming up next. So as many of you know, the rule change was a big hit. It was definitely something that we recognize as needing to happen based on the feedback that we've been given from businesses and others around the state that are just really saying, this is so great. This is a really big deal. This additional funding is really helping us to be able to, you know, have our needs met, upskill our workforce. So that's been great to hear the positive feedback. Those emergency rules went into effect last May, and they transitioned into regular rules and regulations last August. The rule changes specifically were targeted business training grants, pre-hire grants, internship grants, and the apprenticeship grants. The changes included increased funding, like I said, increased number of internships, and allows now for emergency medical service providers as government entities. So that's definitely very exciting. You can go ahead and move on. In terms of just where we've seen some really big growth in the grants, internship is definitely at the top of the list. We saw a huge increase in interest and also in grants that were approved. So just to kind of give you an idea, so far up to the end of January of fiscal 23, so that's about 7 months, There have been 125 grants approved to date, compared to 24 during the same timeframe of fiscal year 22. So you can see that number has increased substantially. And we definitely feel it here. You know, we're definitely keeping busy. It's all hands on deck. It's businesses are catching on and they're seeing the value. We do have businesses that you know, will apply maybe, you know, multiple times for grants as much as they're able to. We have some that just utilize it once. It really depends. But that is very well received. The top industries that we are seeing apply for these grants include healthcare and social assistance. That's definitely a big one. Technology, construction, and technical services. Go ahead. So the business training grants, another one that I mentioned has really increased. So in fiscal year 23, up to the end of January, there have been 446 grants approved. This is compared to 82 grants approved during the same time frame of fiscal year 22. So the word is getting out. And so that we've seen a huge jump with the business training grants, which we're super excited for. That's what we want. We want these grants to be utilized. We want people to know we're here to help them. So it's been great to see that response. Okay, go ahead. And then just on the horizon, just some things, lots happening here. I mean, as you've heard, we have a lot going on, lots of exciting things with the ARPA proposals and with just apprenticeship in general. I mean, all of it. So some things that we're working on, in addition to the day-to-day tasks that we do, is getting a new grant management system. As some of you may know, we have a system for one of our grants. We have an actual grant management system for the business training grant. And the other ones right now are all done manually. So that's definitely not ideal. We know that by getting a system for all of our grants, it's really going to streamline all of our processes for staff and for you know, businesses as well that are applying for those grants. So that's exciting. So that's in the works and we'll keep you posted on that. We have submitted 2 additional ARPA proposals, one for early childhood and healthcare. And I think we talked a little bit about that yesterday. We haven't heard back yet, but we're hoping and anticipating that we will soon. Those proposals would allow for us to help with training for individuals in early childhood programs and healthcare programs as well. And it would also allow for a stipend for individuals for childcare for those that are involved in those early childhood education programs. So very exciting things coming up with that. Lots of further discussion and figuring out, drilling down what that's going to look like. And then as I think it was mentioned yesterday, the U.S. Department of Labor has forecasted additional registered apprenticeship funding. So that's really exciting. The grant they currently are going to be releasing, we understand, is not competitive. It's a formula grant, so that's great. You know, it's hard. We find, you know, with competitive grants, we are a smaller state. We just, you know, weren't successful, unfortunately, in getting a grant that we applied for, the ABA grant, Apprenticeship Building America. And so this is exciting. I feel this is great that we're going to be able to hopefully, you know, tap into this grant. So that's exciting news. And then if we have time, I do want to share a few success stories. Are we over, or do we have a minute for that?
No,
Mr.
you
Chairman?
absolutely have time, especially for success stories.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about it, just to have a few here. We have a business that utilized our business training grant to upskill some of their staff. And what they said was, thanks to a grant from Wyoming Workforce Services, our staff was able to attend the Association of Children's Museum annual conference in Denver this May. We learned so much. and were able to connect with other museum professionals. Please share our deep appreciation for making this opportunity possible with others in the workforce office. So I thought that was really, really great. I have an internship success story here I'd like to share. This is from an intern that said, there is a huge problem of Wyoming students getting educated at the university and then leaving the state to pursue careers. That was exactly my plan as well. College was my escape route from a modest background and Wyoming, but this internship showed me the alarming need for more economic development and to support small businesses. Otherwise, our natural resource economy will eventually implode. I'm now asking myself, how can I give back to the state and provide my resources and talents? Corporate America was my dream, but I've now realized that I can be just as successful on a small scale and likely leave more of an impact. I hope that more students will be open to taking internships that don't exactly fit the mold and push them to discover new skills and capacities. And then I think, which one would be? Okay, I'll share one more for internship. I found this business on a class field trip. At that point, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my future, but I knew I wanted to work outside. The day we visited the greenhouse, we helped transplant willows, and from them, I knew I wanted to work with native plants. Later transferred from Sheridan College to University of Wyoming for a botany degree. So those are just some experiences from individuals that were really pleased with just this funding and the ability to utilize some of our grants and benefit from them.
Amazing. Very good.
And then Sharon wants to just jump in really quick here.
Sharon's here.
I am actually here. We're sharing an office.
Team's all here. Wonderful. Go ahead, please, Sharon.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to answer a couple of your questions about business training grants, as there was a little bit of interest in that area. The main focus with that, like we said, are businesses that are sending their existing employees to training to help either correct a skill deficiency or to add to their skill set. And so, yes, we do have a number of businesses that use this in an ongoing basis from fiscal year to fiscal year. In addition, with the increase of funding per employee, it has allowed many employees to go to multiple trainings instead of the fewer amounts that they were able to go to before. And so we've just experienced such a high interest in the business training grants to utilize this purpose. As we indicated, some of the top industries are healthcare and technology and construction and other fields like that. But I did want to share with you guys, we're starting to track some of the subsets from an internship perspective. And so even just in the technology industry, we have businesses that are looking at artificial intelligence, robotics, drone work. We're helping interns in the agricultural field. We're definitely starting to have conversations with this business Plenty on how we can help them with their training needs. And so I just wanted to give a little bit more information on your questions about the business training grants and the usage and how that has really helped a lot of the businesses. And then we're available here to answer any additional questions as well.
No, I appreciate that, Sharon. And please take my questions from a part curiosity, but B, from a council's perspective and our responsibilities, our fiduciary responsibilities in terms of oversight. You know, just obviously I feel good that you guys feel good that we're doing the right things on the business training grant side. I just want to ensure that, you know, we feel comfortable that, you know, we're in adherence, that, you know, we're doing our due diligence. We don't have to be involved at the level you're involved. That's what you're paid to do. That's why we've brought such a great team on board, and you guys continue to impress in the work that you do. We just, you know, there just needs to be some level of perhaps, I don't know if it's oversight or just confidence that from a council's perspective, we're, you know, we feel good that it's in compliance. And so, and that it's accomplishing what we all wanted to accomplish. And I believe it does. I'm trying to think through what would be the information that would help us get there. And so I'll kind of put that back on you, Sharon, a little bit to give that some consideration. But, you know, in terms of the parts of the programs that I have good visibility into and that the council has good visibility into, you know, I think the training fund is amazing amazing stuff. And I'm always, it's almost the first, it's my lead foot when I'm talking to friends and family about what it is we do. I talk a lot about the training fund and the app that we have as a state that are just so unique, and jaws drop when I bring it up. And so I just, I can't say enough to try to help promote it. So that's the perspective, Sharon.
Absolutely. And we welcome all questions and any interest, because we do tend to get our tunnel vision of working in the day-to-day, and what we know inside and out, other members are not as familiar with. So whatever we can do to help you have a better understanding of our program, we would love to be able to do that. We do, just so you all know, that we do a lot of outreach to businesses and associations. We've had a lot of groups reach out to us and ask us to present at their meetings to continue to educate businesses and community members on what this program does and how it's available to them. And we do a lot of technical assistance, helping the businesses through the application process and understanding which grant might best fit their needs. And then we've also just rolled out a Google form version of an application for the internship grant, and hoping to do that with the other grants as well as a midterm fix until we get the new grant system up and running. And so we are definitely trying to make things a lot easier for the businesses to access and help them understand how to apply for these grants so that they can utilize them to the best of their needs.
Agreed. Yeah, no, and I would add, I think where the true I don't know, there's this delicate dance that I know you have to do as well with the businesses to try to help guide them into not only the proper grant program, but just to almost sit down and think and assess, is this the right direction for them to be moving in? And I've been in part of businesses that have applied, and I think you guys do that amazingly well. So thank you very much. Any questions for Sharon while we have her on? No.
Looks
Last
like
question.
Director Cooley's hand.
Oh
might
yeah,
be
I'm
up.
sorry, Director Cooley, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just wanted to mention, during the legislative session, I did have a comment made to me about the funding for this program, and was a sense or some belief that it impacted unemployment insurance tax rates for businesses. And I did want to make sure that everyone on the council is aware that that is not the case. The funds for this program come from an entirely separate fund. It's called the State UI Trust Fund, which is entirely separate from the UI Trust Fund that's used to pay benefits out and that is used to determine tax rates for benefits. And it's the interest off of this separate fund that funds these programs. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware there is no connection there to business tax rates. I just want to throw that out there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's a great clarification. Thank you very much. So just briefly, Sharon, and maybe this was Shay that was talking about it, but as it relates to Plenty, in the conversation we just had with Josh, that would then fall into the pre-hire obligation realm potentially?
So we did have an initial conversation with them earlier in the week, and I did ask just a general oversense of what their training needs were going to look like. And it does look like they have a variety of areas that they want to focus on. So the pre-obligation is probably going to be the best source for them to get started. And I'm going to be meeting with them next week to dive into that a little bit more.
Great, thank you. And then my last thing, and I will keep quiet. Years ago, and maybe it's still in existence, I loosely hear it talked about, but there's this thing called the Business Resource Network in the state. And I don't know if that's just a term somebody gave to all the various people that are in organizations that are able to help businesses thrive in the state. So you've got the Small Business Development Center, you've got the Wyoming Business Council, you've got PTAC, MRC. There's just a whole host of these different resources that are available. And some of them have regional representation. So we know the Business Council has 6 regional directors around the state. The SBDC, I think they have 11 or 12 people around the state that go and visit with small budding entrepreneurs, more small business, mainly helping them with their business planning, et cetera. But they work with some larger organizations. how aware or have we reached out to those teams of regional representatives to kind of share with them these programs? Because as I meet with a lot of them, they don't have necessarily the resources or tools in their toolbox to provide some of the assistance as it relates to training that we have. And yet I'm not always certain that they're aware of what we do and perhaps could be a little bit of an ambassador and mouthpiece for us as they travel around the state.
Absolutely. I'm not familiar with the Business Resource Network, but I have met with representatives from the Small Business Development Association. We've met with the Nonprofit Association. We work with the Business Council and the regional directors quite closely. And so, yeah, we do try and WEDA, the Wyoming Economic Development Association. So we do try and meet with as many associations as we're able to, but we're always open to meet with new groups and new representatives. So if you have any that you want to send our way or that I can reach out and connect with, we're happy to do that.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So just to finish this out, as you can see on this last slide, we do have our information, email and phone numbers. So we welcome any responses. If you have further questions and want to reach out to us directly, please do so. And we appreciate the time to be able to present here with you all.
Great. Thank you very
Vivian,
much.
the slide isn't showing. It says Carrie is showing her screen, but it's not showing. It's all black. I don't know if anyone else is seeing that.
I'm seeing it. It's the contact slide. So I don't know if that's local or if that's across, but I do see the slide.
It might be. Yeah, there it is. Oh,
And it is your program materials or the meeting materials, I'm sorry, in your Google Drive link. And I'll reshare that link here just momentarily. All right. Well, thank you very much, Team WDTF. Awesome job, as always.
Thank you so much.
Great. We've got Yvonne here, who's going to fill us in on the Safety and Workforce Summit. A couple fun topics coming up, and then we'll take a little break. Yvonne, you've got your full 10 minutes. Even though I've got us a little bit behind, but we'll catch up. Don't worry. Yvonne, are you muted or? Oop, bear with us one moment.
All right, sorry about that. It took me a minute. My screens were doing something funny. Hopefully you guys can all hear me now. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me be a part of your meeting this morning. My name is Yvonne Adcall. I'm the Strategic Operations Supervisor here at DWS, and my team puts on the Safety and Workforce Summit each year. And I just wanted to take a few minutes this morning to talk to you about the summit. So the summit will be taking place on April 18th and 19th here in Cheyenne at Little America. Registration for the summit is currently open, and we have a lot of really exciting topics this year. The first one is our keynote speaker. Our keynote is Sherry Harley. She's the author of the book, How to Say Anything to Anyone. She's also a former HR practitioner and operations leader. She's spoken globally in Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, India, Dubai, and Australia. And her keynote will provide insight on attracting and retaining the right employees, as well as managing business relationships and professional reputation. Some of our breakout sessions include speakers like Edwin Folk. He currently works for Fisher Phillips, but prior to joining Fisher Phillips, he was actually the Assistant Secretary of Labor for OSHA, and he was named under President George W. Bush. During his tenure at OSHA, workplace injuries, illnesses, and fatality rates dropped to the lowest in recorded history. And for more than 30 years, he's worked in the labor and employment area, focusing on occupational safety and health issues, workplace violence, risk assessment and prevention, whistleblower protection, and fatality prevention. We also have Zach Shiflett. Zach is currently the Director of Business Solutions at Premier Virtual. Premier Virtual is a veteran-owned software company that focuses on virtual and hybrid job fairs. He's going to be discussing the battle between companies trying to get people back to work to the office and people leaving their jobs at record pace, and the way that business has changed over the last 3 years. We also have John Jinks. John is the Economic Initiatives Director for the Wyoming Business Council. Prior to joining the council, he worked as part of the Greater Kansas Chamber of Commerce initiative by successfully leading local, state, and federal efforts to enact policies and helping returning citizens transitioning after incarceration. His breakout session is going to be speaking about the benefits of hiring formerly incarcerated individuals, and he's going to be joined by DWS's own Melody Norris, who's going to be speaking about DWS's Career Compass program and the Pathway Home 3 grant, which provide incarcerated adults the critical building skills and support services prior to and after their release. Something else that we've kind of added this year is we have a full day of workshops leading into the summit. So those will take place on April 18th. And those topics include, and I am so thankful for Shay, Ivy, and Sharon's presentation today, because one of those workshops is actually a deep dive into the business training grants. So our business training support unit will discuss those business training grants, the pre-hire, pre-obligation grants, internship grants, the registered apprenticeships, and how you register your program with the Department of Labor, plus a discussion and hands-on assistance in applying for the DWS apprenticeship grant. Our risk management team is going to be providing an overview of the services that our risk management team provides, including those discount programs, information on base rates, experience modification rates, and many more programs that are available to employers who are in good standing with workers' compensation. And they're going to help businesses apply for those discount programs. We also have a social media masterclass with Haley McKee, who will provide an opportunity to learn how to make the most of social media and how to put it to work to actively spread your message. And finally, Karen Babisi, our DWS OSHA program manager, is coordinating a workshop and certification on fall prevention, ladder safety, and equipment inspection. We have other really great breakout sessions. Some of our topics include telework in the post-pandemic world, our Wyoming Preference Act, moral injury and veteran employment, the OSHA whistleblowers, and board certified safety professional credentials. We do have these save the date cards that we were going to make available to you guys if the meeting happened in person. If this is something you would like and you would like us to send you some so that you can distribute them within your networks, we'd be happy to send those to you. Just email Jennifer Wilch. They do include a QR code on them that will take you to the summit information page on our website, as well as registration. Also, Jennifer will be emailing council members the code to use to register for the summit. We just ask that that code is not shared outside of the council. And I just would open that up now for any questions you guys might have.
Thank you, Yvonne. And I noticed that Trevor did post the link for the summit as well. So feel free to check the chat if you want to just click on it directly. Any questions for Yvonne regarding the summit? We have one coming across chat. Do we pay to attend? Spoken from a council member.
From a council member, no. The code that Jennifer will email you will be the code to make it to where you don't have to pay for the registration.
And I absolutely encourage attendance. If you haven't been to one of these in the past, it's a wonderful networking opportunity. Even if you have been to in the past, new people are there every year. The breakout sessions are always super helpful. It's a good time. It's a good time to kind of reconnect a bit. And since we've been virtual this time, it would be even better still. So yeah, I urge anyone who can attend to attend. Ron, go ahead.
So Jennifer or whoever, will you guys check and see if you still have the check that we sent you last year for it, or if not, then let me know and I can get a new one issued to support it.
Absolutely. I can check into that for you, Ron. I can check with our fiscal department.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we do want to thank all the sponsors. The team does a nice job of visiting with various businesses to get this effort to happen. Talk about spending plans and expenditures. We can all be brought up to date in terms of what our contribution has been. Any other question? No, Yvonne, thank you very much. Trevor, Ty, everybody who's been involved in this effort. Thank you for putting the summit together. It's always a good time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will share our spreadsheet here. And as you've mentioned, this is in your meeting materials. If you'd like me to zoom in on anything while I'm presenting, just let me know. So we are reviewing our November, December, and January expenditures. Year to date, we're just about halfway through our 20 grant. As you can see up here, at the end of January, we had 381,000 left that needs to be spent by June 30th. So we do have some projects coming up that I think are going to help us spend that down. We just talked about the summit that will be happening, and I believe the council has committed $20,000 to that effort. Yesterday, it was mentioned the Workforce 180, which is a training for the Workforce Center staff. So that will help spend that down as well. And then the Next Gen Academy, and we have the evaluations contract that's working through as well. So those will help us spend that down. We do still have our grant with Department of Education for micro-credentialing, and I understand that teachers are working through that program, and hopefully we'll get some invoices here pretty soon. And the FBLA sponsorship was mentioned yesterday as well. And I think that we've got some next gen sector support grants that are working their way through also. So we're keeping a close eye on that dollar amount. We do have our 21 and 22 grants available, and just working on that first in, first out to make sure that we're spending the funds that are going to expire sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Jennifer, do you mind scrolling down to the bottom again? Just a real quick one on board software, and Kari, if you can unmute yourself, I'd like to just touch on that really quick, just to remind the board or the council, sorry, that we've gone down the path of evaluating various pieces of software that we can use as a council to coordinate our efforts digitally. And so that we're not trading files back and forth, but that we're all speaking from the same platform of data, information, files, budgets, et cetera. And we're nearing the completion there. Eric, Vice Chair Eric, has been hugely instrumental in moving that forward, as have Jennifer and Kari. Kari, anything you want to add as it relates to board software for the team?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just add that the contract is currently over at the AG's office, so they're doing their review of that contract, and then once it is in place, implementation, we should be able to pretty much launch, I believe, within about 6 weeks of when we're able to have a project kickoff with our vendor. And also just another thank you to Michael Kircher, who helped us score those RFPs.
Excellent. Yeah,
for the bids to the RFP.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to make streamline our processes significantly, so that we're not playing in 4 different platforms. So thank you, Kari. Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. I believe that was really the main things that I wanted to highlight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Do we have any questions for Jennifer? Nikki Harper?
Mr. Chairman, just a curiosity question. Jen, do these funds have to be obligated by 6:30 or spent by 6:30?
Spent.
Spent. Okay. So going back up, we had 381 something thousand, and hopefully in the next 4 months, we have a plan to get most of that spent.
That's correct. And I need to contact with Christina West again to see where we're at with the Workforce Center staff training. Because I do know that we have a lot of that obligated, but when we can expect invoices, because we do have 3 grant years open. I don't want to tie up any money that maybe wouldn't be spent, until the next grant year. So yeah, we are keeping an eye on the expenditures. We do have normal monthly expenditures as well, and then some of those big projects that are coming up in the spring.
So where would those like monthly expenditures reflect, just again for curiosity purposes, just to, because I'm seeing the 23 expenditures, but if the current expenditures are hitting the 20 award, how would we as a council just have a general idea of what kind of standing monthly obligations are there or expenditures are there, so that come 2 months before the end of the spending period, we're not going, oh my gosh, we obligated X number of dollars for training. We're not going to be able to get that training done, or a contract is running late. We're not going to get the service provided. And the reason I'm asking this is this kind of sometimes happens in our world, as you know well. Jennifer, we obligate something, it may not happen, and we have a certain time frame, and we got to get these funds spent.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Mr. Chairman and Nikki, so we set the budget up on a fiscal year basis, just to give the council kind of an idea of where we'll be spending our money for the fiscal year. However, because this is federal funds, we have 3 grant years open, and we're going to use first in, first out. So that's the budget that you're seeing is for fiscal year 23. And then we have our current funding available here at the top. And then monthly expenditures are reflected here. And we do meet with the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee monthly to give an update on where we're at with spending. And we can talk about, if contracts or something like that fall through. But that's precisely why we don't necessarily have reflect the obligations unless we know for sure that they're going to come out in this grant cycle. Otherwise, we do have the 3 grant years open, and it can be paid for when the invoices come in a further grant year.
Well said, Jennifer. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question, Nikki, and I appreciate that. So just again, for the council's purposes, this colored area is probably an interesting area to key in on. High level, Wyoa provides us close to $5.5 million as a state. Of that, we have for the council's operations, our operations, and the things that we take part in, there's a 15% set aside, or up to a 15% state set aside that funds our operations. And that's what that $817,000 in 2020 is. It remains open for 3 years for us to be able to use. So in 2021, another cohort layer, gets added on. In 2022, yet another layer gets added on. So you can kind of see what we have remaining with those 3 open years. So Nikki brings up a good point. We've got $381,000 remaining. There are some obligations hanging out there that would be applied against this, but there are some expenditures that we want to put these resources to good use, and so that we need to consider before the end of the window closes here on 6/30. So, did I say that okay, Jennifer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Perfect. Thank you.
Wow, then that's a first. I'm still learning. It doesn't work this way in the private sector, but it's good stuff. Excellent. Thank you. Let me open it up for any questions for Jennifer regarding the expenditure report.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe this requires a vote as well.
Yes, I was just going to wait to see if we had any questions, and if we don't, I'll go ahead and request a motion be made that we accept the spending plan and expenditures into record.
So moved.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Seconded.
Thank you, Ron.
Seconded.
All those in favor of approving the expenditure report and spending plan as shown, signify with an aye.
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 Any opposed? No? All right, well, thank you very much. That's been approved. Jennifer, appreciate your help with all of that. I love that's just the tip of the iceberg, what we're seeing. And I know it goes many, many layers deep. So I appreciate you working on the many, many layers that build that up. All right, well, thank you very much. Well, let's see, what time is it? 9:59. We're 4 minutes past to the end. So we'll go ahead and reconvene here at 10:10. We'll take a short break. Feel free to refill the coffee mugs, catch up on voicemail, and we'll reconvene at 10:10, despite the next slide probably showing 10:05. Thank you very much. And we're back. Tiffany, are you queued up and ready?
I am.
Wonderful. Well, let me see how we're doing here. Looks like most folks are back. So if you want to go ahead and get started, we're going to resume our strategic plan session from yesterday and from the past few months. And we're lucky to have Tiffany with us today from the Align team. She'll lead us through this next session.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so yesterday we made a lot of good impact creating some goals. And now we're going to focus on those first year goals. I do have a record of what those were. So if you need help on remembering what your first year goals are, hopefully your groups documented that, but I can certainly provide those back to you. And we did tweak some as well. So use your tweaked goals, and we're just focusing on the first year. So what we're going to do today is we're going to actually create an action plan. So these are the tasks or the kind of the next steps that need to occur to get to that first year goal. So we're going to answer these 3 questions, and I'll show you how we'll do that. So what tasks need to be completed to accomplish your first year goal? Again, just the first year. Who is responsible for making it happen? Now, this can be at the committee level, and it's not the person that does all the work necessarily, but it is the person or persons who are really in charge of making sure it gets happen or make sure it gets done. So whether they delegate or whatnot, but it is somebody who's responsible. Please keep it at the subcommittee level. We can't just say the council is in charge of this or DWS. That's not specific enough. So we really want to make sure it gets done. So who's responsible for making it happen and when is it due? So we need those 3 components for each action item. Okay, so let me show you another little point I wanted to make. So don't forget as you're going through these, and even if you need to tweak your goals, don't forget about this practical vision piece down here. So these are the elements that we created that you want to get done in 4 years. So by the end of 4 years, you want an enhanced brand perception and awareness. You want to provide more opportunities for training and credentials. You want to develop sustainable career opportunities, and you want to expand outreach and collaboration. So the strategic directions that we created, now these are what we worked off yesterday. These are efforts or activities that drive the accomplishment of these things down here. So now some of these match really well. So invent an image goes really well with enhancing brand perception and awareness, and expanding outreach and collaboration matches really well with engage in community outreach. But we have these 2 kind of strategic directions that don't completely match the training and credentials and providing or developing sustainable career opportunities. So I just want to make sure you don't lose sight of this practical vision. So again, this report is in your meeting materials. It is on page 2. If you want to look at this whole picture so that as you create action items that accomplish your goals, make sure that this is your end in sight. This is kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. This is what you're really going for at the end of the day. So in a moment, I will drop a document in to the group chat, and hopefully you'll be able to download it from there. And this is the document. So it's just a Word document called Action Planning. Your task as a group, and we'll do the same breakouts as we did yesterday. If you did not attend yesterday, you can pick a group. Action planning document. This is what you're going to complete. So here you put the strategic direction. So this is invent an image, create user-friendly tech, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the strategic direction that goes here. This is your goal. Again, 1 year goals only. And then we have your 12-month action plan. This is what you want to accomplish in year 1. And I understand that you follow generally the state fiscal year, which is July through June. Everybody confirm that?
It's the federal, yes.
Say that again.
It's the federal.
Oh,
program year, so it's July 1 to June 7.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. So your first year will actually
you know, I mean, you can start actions now. We don't want to wait until July if you don't want to, but this will essentially be July 2023 to June of 2024. So that's kind of the 12 months we're talking about, and you can go earlier than July if you would like. So create as many action items as you think needs to be done to complete that goal. And again, the person responsible and the due date. Questions about this?
Just to clarify, technically, we're doing strategic planning for 2024 and the next 4 years. We write our state plan in 2023, and all of this information gets put into the state plan that we'll start writing in the next couple of months. That starts 2024. Now, that by no means we can't start any of these initiatives right now, but just planning wise, the strategic plan is for 2024 for 4 years. We have to write it in this year, which will happen in the next couple of months. And so that's kind of the timing, which is wonky, but we can start activities as soon as we would like.
Okay, did that make sense to everybody? Thank you for that clarification. Any questions about what you're tasked with doing? And I am having some difficulty getting that document into the chat, but I will figure that out and give it to you in your breakout groups. But any questions before we go into breakouts?
And Tiffany, that document's the one that has the goals that we had set yesterday, correct?
So the document I'm sending you actually has the, it's the action planning document. So I am hoping that you have documentation of the goals you set yesterday. If you do not, let me know and I will send those to you as well.
We had a wonderful scribe. I am sure we have those goals documented.
Okay, good. Okay, so Jennifer says she's going to put it on the Google Drive where the rest of the material meetings are. So that's where you will be able to find the document that you're actually completing in this next bit. Okay. So barring any other questions, and I'll pop into the breakout rooms to see how it's going. If you have any additional questions, we'll go ahead and get started. So if Trevor could set up those breakout rooms.
The breakout rooms are open. You should find it on the bottom of the screen there. If you have trouble getting to the room you want to go, just speak up and I'll be happy to move you into that room.
Thank you, Trevor.
Will you go ahead and move me, Trevor?
Yep. Which room are you in, Ron?
Collaboration.
All right. Sending you now.
Have you been able to email me that document?
Yes, so I just sent it and it looks like Kari was able to get it into the chat. So that was impressive. She was fast. I don't know how she did it. So I just emailed it to you. Anyone else having troubles getting into the breakout rooms?
It looks like it's just DWS staff left from what I can tell. So, and I think, are they welcome to join the groups if they want as well?
They are welcome to join a group, so feel free to do that.
I'm gonna just hang here for a little while and get a few things done if you guys are okay with that.
Oh,
That's
for
good
sure.
too.
Okay, thanks.
Tiffany, how long did you want this to go for? Oh.
Mark, are you there? So Trevor, Mark's group is missing him. He might have had to step away, but could we go ahead and just put him into, oh goodness, let me see, make sure, engage in community outreach.
Yep, yeah, I'll drop
And
it.
then, okay, thank you. And then when he returns, he can be part of his group.
I was talking, but nobody could hear me. I was like, put me in community in outreach,
Oh, shoot.
but I'm driving, so I couldn't do it myself. That's for sure.
Okay, so you are here. All right, yeah, your group is missing you, so we'll put you in. Maybe both, you're showing up as Mark Madsen and a phone number, so maybe both need to be moved.
Well, the phone number is where I am. I had to tell Jennifer, you know, I had one set of kids I had to take to school, another one we got an appointment downtown.
Oh, shoot. Yep, I know how it goes. Believe me.
Right.
I'll move you in there now.
Trevor, you
Thanks, Trevor.
Yep. What time did you want everybody to come back together?
Yeah, so I realized I didn't give a time frame. I think some people are cruising through pretty quick. Let's tentatively say 10:40.
Okay.
And then we'll give them 10 more minutes. And then if that changes, I'll let you know.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll plan a 5-minute warning about 10:35 then.
Perfect.
Awesome. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Let's actually do 10:50. I think people need a bit more time, and then we'll have 30 minutes to wrap up. So
Okay, perfect. I'll do the
10:50.
5 minute warning at 10:45 and I'll send out a message right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
You mind throwing me back over there, Trevor?
Sure thing, Ron.
Thank you.
Hey, Tiffany, are you ready for me to go ahead and end the breakouts?
Let's give them, well, I guess, yeah, it's 10:50. Yeah, let's go ahead and end the breakouts.
Okay.
We're all back,
Welcome.
Tiffany.
Thank you. Welcome back. You got zapped to the main room. Doesn't it feel a little bit like you're being transported? Oh, it's kind of fun. Okay, so let us just briefly kind of do a quick overview of what you talked about in your small groups with the larger group, just in case someone in the room got volunteered to do some action item. I think everybody needs to be in the loop. So let's start with invent an image. You could just kind of give a brief overview of what your group talked about and what your time frame looks like, and what you're trying to accomplish.
I guess since I was documenting it, I'll jump in. In terms of a year one goal, and we'll make it even a year 0.5 of a year goal. I don't recall our exact wording from yesterday, but in effect, it was developing the key messaging for what the what the WDC is, what the council is, so that we're kind of on brand with that. And what we mean by that is not only just coming up with a few words and the elevator pitch for when your friends or your folks or your coworkers or industry experts or other stakeholders ask you, what are you doing 2 days every quarter? You'll have a response for that, but it goes a little deeper than that. We think it kind of speaks to the brand. But anyway, so that was our goal. Did you want me to go through specific action items, Tiffany?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we have several. We have 6 of them, I believe. Our first call of duty there would be that the communications committee would develop that concise brand messaging for the council. And the communications committee will review that in their April meeting. Daniel will take the lead on that because we like how he talks. And then that team, that group, as a second action item, will bring that to the council for review and approval. That'll happen in May. And even probably a fun little exercise to ingrain it in all of our hearts so that we're all able to deliver that effective elevator pitch as to what the council's about. Then post that meeting, the communications committee will take it to a deeper level by building audience specific messaging that also includes a call to action. So it depends who's asking me the question. Fabian, what's the council? Well, if that's DWS staff, that's one thing. If it's a council member, that's a different thing. If it's a workforce center staff member, it's a different thing. If it's an industry partner, it's probably a different response. And so we want to target that messaging and really kind of break that down and provide that for our entire council so that we can all speak from the same sheet of music coherently without stuttering. So that would be in June. And then we want to, Kari's going to jump in from a staff perspective, and she's going to help align all of our various platforms with that messaging. So that includes our site, that includes all of our social streams, that includes just anywhere else that messaging kind of manifests itself in terms of how the council speaks about themselves. That would be in June as well. And then I will follow in on the tail end, probably earlier on, to start to identify and work with Robert and the team to identify key performance indicators for measuring effectiveness of this messaging. And I know that sounds a little lofty, but we think through kind of baselining where we are today in terms of saying, well, our site probably gets 0 to little traffic and our social streams get nominal amounts of engagement. Our people reaching out on our contact us forums probably next to close to 0. But if we start
Actually,
to-
a million.
Sorry, I'm sorry, what was that?
A million Sammy
Millions
a day.
Yes.
I get a lot.
Okay, well, then that'll be one of our baseline things. We're going to drive that to 3 million. So we'll define what those metrics are, and then we'll start to provide to the entire council starting in September. We'll provide quarterly updates in terms of what those KPIs are, in terms of our reach, our effectiveness, our brand awareness, and maybe even some anecdotal things about people reaching out saying, hey, I want to be a council member. You know, that to me is a win on our messaging dissemination. So those are our 6 action items for that goal, Tiffany.
Sounds great. Thank you. Feedback from the larger group. Any disagreements?
They're all saying, why isn't John Conrad still the chair? He was so eloquent yesterday.
Yeah. That's great. Got a lot of work done just now. Okay, let's move on to drive collaboration with partnerships. Kind of a brief overview of what you talked about.
All right, I'll take this one. So we streamlined our idea a little bit, abandoned Senate File 78 for now because that's not necessarily actionable by the council. That's going to be DWS getting their program rolling. So instead, we just focused on building a crosswalk and streamlining terminology among agencies is our year 1 goal. I can tell you, coming in from private industry into this group, the acronyms have made me a little crazy. So if we can somehow streamline that across the different agencies, step one would be the Title 1, 3, and 4 groups, headed up by Nikki and Denise. Just to, first of all, come through with a baseline of terminology and maybe a description of what those agencies, the primary functions of those agencies. We put a 4-week timeline on that. Once they are complete with their 4 weeks, it would then transfer to Title II, the education piece. And they would then review that terminology, see if they have anything that is maybe a little bit different, and see what they can do to combine what was done in step 1. Dr. Aldridge, we were hoping would help with that piece on step 2 as being the lead. Step 3 then would be the title partner review. It was suggested maybe Dr. Caldwell can help us with that for just all of the different partners that are involved to review after it's been through step 1 and 2. Step 4, release that terminology and the pathways to DFS, DOC, and the rest of that, and maybe Director Schmidt can help us with that to get the other agencies' input, make sure there aren't any adjustments that need to be made or any further clarifications. Step 5, review by industry. So between Ron Wild, myself, and Katie, we would get together and review these terminologies and pathways and make sure that private industry understands how this system functions, the pathways, make sure there aren't any terms that we don't understand as private industry. Step 6, we would then distribute to all the agencies that have been involved for review of that final plan. Just the final terminologies, the final pathways, make sure we have a fairly clear and complete roadmap of how to get in between each agency. Step 7, at that point, a review by the public of these terms, of these pathways. Katie volunteered for that one as well. That's maybe getting in front of some students and in front of some parents and in front of the general public that would need to use these terms, need to use these agencies, and make sure that the plan we've put together is clear for them as well.
Okay, thank you. Feedback from the larger group. So I'm going to go ahead and read some things out loud to you. This is drive collaboration with partnerships. These are the ideas that got us into the category for that strategic direction. Okay, and this is just a question, and you all can tell me that you're on the right track, but I just want to ask. So these are some ideas. Drive consistency between agencies. Utilize our partnerships with DOE, DFS, WBC, and others to achieve engagement. Create agreed upon criteria to verify skills and competencies. Establish vision for future economy. Establish skills and competency dictionary or glossary, and create a sense of shared responsibility. So with those action items, do you feel like you're kind of getting at those pieces?
I believe we are. I think that's the intent of what we're trying to do here, but anyone else on my committee, feel free to chime in.
Mr. Chairman, yep, I believe that we are getting there. That's why we wanted to start with common language, because it seems like across the different title partners we use, we say clients, others say participant, someone else says student. So just to make sure that we're all understanding the common language, so that when it comes time to developing our state plans, which we will here start working on pretty quickly, that everyone, including industry and other entities, have an understanding of who we're referring to, what we're referring to. So that's why we thought we would start there.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other thoughts for this group? Okay, very good. Let's go to create user-friendly technology.
Hi, this is Ty Stockton. I'm with DWS. If I haven't if I haven't met you guys yet, they elected me the spokesperson for their group. We've got our first goal was to create a mobile friendly system to reach our clients where they live, and my wording of that goal may be a little different than what they came up with yesterday. But we're starting that with the MIS system for the Wyoming at Work job board, to try to make that a little more user friendly for the clients, for the businesses, so that everybody can access it more and make it more useful. I closed my window that had that that list on it. The first step in that is we're working with the vendor to get the scoping right, so that we make sure that we're delivering what needs to be delivered in terms of how that works for the clients who are going in to look for jobs, how easy it is for the businesses to enter the jobs and find workers. And then we have to gather data from that to send back to DOL. So also looking into how that works for our staff to make sure that it's easy for them to get that information. So that first step is to complete the scoping. We're shooting for actually kind of accelerating this a little bit. This is our first year goal, but we're trying to get that done by sometime in early March. And then to provide the next step would be to provide that new and improved MIS system to the clients, the businesses, DWS staff, shooting for that on around November, early November of this year for that, to get that up and running. And then a third step would be to survey the stakeholders, the clients, the businesses, make sure that it is easy for them to use. And if we have to make any tweaks, we can do that. Shooting for doing something like that around December, early on in the launch of that. The person responsible for all of those is my team, the WIOA program team, and then he's in the background, he's running this Zoom meeting. You don't see him, but Trevor Mansfield is kind of leading that charge with the MIS leadership team, which is actually comprised of the WIOA program team, as well as the workforce center staff, and other people at DWS who need that information.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ty. Any comments for this group? So this is 100% DWS, it sounds like?
No, it's actually with a vendor. The company is called Career Edge.
Okay. And how can the council support this work?
Actually, Tony Cross was on our little subcommittee here, and he said he would be willing to step in and help give the council's take on how that's going, if we would add him to that leadership team.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, comments for the Create User-Friendly Tech group? Okay, very good. Last one, engage in community outreach.
Yes, good morning. This is Brenda Morgan. I was designated as the scribe this morning since Mark is driving. Our assignment was for engaging community outreach. We had kind of two goals that we kind of mushed together. Our first goal was fund and research best methods for creating engagement and outreach. And the second part of that is building the materials for engagement and outreach. So our first action item was to visit with Jennifer Welch about the possibility of creating an RFP for researching these best engagement outreach methods. The group responsible for that would be our Strategic and Planning Finance Subcommittee. We would hope to have an answer visiting with Jennifer at the next March subcommittee meeting in 2023. If the possibility of doing an RFP was available, we would release the RFP in June of 2023. And we believe that the DWS Fiscal Office is the one that releases those RFPs. Hopefully, if that was attainable, we would award the contract to the group that would do the research for us. Again, that would be issued by the DWS fiscal office in August of 2023. We would probably then have to create a special subcommittee on the council, possibly call it engagement and outreach, to evaluate the information we receive back from that group. And we would probably try to do that February of 2024. And then we would try to determine the outreach and engagement methods to be funded by the council, putting that back in the hands of the Strategic Planning and Finance Subcommittee in April of 2024. And then solicit a vendor or vendors for creation of the outreach tools, which again, we would probably restart the RFP process for when vendors are involved. And again, that would be Strategic and Planning and Finance Subcommittee around June of 2024. And that's all we had.
Excellent, very clear. Questions, thoughts for this group, engage in community outreach? Okay, so I am going to share my screen real quick and just let you know that I would love to see these action planning sheets that you just completed, because I need to put them into the report. So please email me what you have. We might need to do a little bit of additional tweaking with the smaller planning group, just kind of make sure everything fits and ties together. But if you could send me these today, that would be excellent. So tcook@thealignteam.org, send me your planning sheets. Any last thoughts, questions, comments, concerns about this process, where we've gotten to today? All right, Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Time's up now, 11:09. Very good. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate that. We'll go ahead and jump into our committee breakouts now. And I think, is it Trevor that's going to provide those breakout rooms for us again?
Yep, I can get those opened up, and I started to assign people, but I didn't get very far. But if you have any trouble getting to your committee, just speak up or send a chat, and I can move you to that room.
Okay, great. So we'll have 3 separate breakout rooms for Communications and Community Relations Committee, the Next Gen Sector Partnerships and Career Pathways Committee, and then we'll also have the Strategic Performance and Finance. So will people be able to, Trevor, join one of those if they're not assigned?
Yep. Everybody should be able to join the room of their choice.
Great, thank you. So we've got a couple extra minutes too. So we had 20 minutes slated for it, but it looks like you'll have closer to 25 or 30 minutes. So feel free to be thorough in your committee updates. We'll reconvene as a group at 11:40, and then we'll take 10 minutes or so for committee updates. So if we can get the chairs of each of those subcommittees to provide an update in terms of recent activities, and perhaps looking down the road at what the future holds, that would be appreciated. So Trevor, if you can just let us know when those breakout rooms are there. It looks like they've just been put up.
Yep, I just opened them up.
Okay, great. So feel free to join those groups, and we'll get back together at 11:40. Sorry about that, team. Communications team took longer than most. That's what you get when you stick a room full of communicators in a room, even a virtual one. So hopefully you found the sessions as good as the couple that I sat in briefly. We'll go ahead and actually we'll start with Danny to provide an update on Communications and Community Relations Committee.
So we did, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We didn't have a quorum today, so it was some kind of high-level discussion on kind of where we're going, what our committee looks like, how we might search out expanding the committee a little bit and bringing in some more communications knowledge. And we're going to be trying to do some other kind of side meetings in the near future to focus on some of our communication questions going forward, some of our goals and our action plans. So surprisingly, there weren't any major updates I need to give you for the only subcommittee that went over our time. But that's kind of where we're at. We had a pretty small group, but some pretty nice in-depth discussion about what communications is going to be going forward. So anything to add there from the communications subcommittee? All right, Mr. Chairman.
That's good, Danny. Thank you very much. We did have, I just will add, I mean, because I think it's worth noting for the entire council, and I guess it's because I have an ask in there. And I think the note that we have is, you know, we're in an interesting time, and we were talking about this briefly. I won't go too in depth with it, but I would like to bolster our council's skill sets as it relates to creative, marketing, PR, communications, et cetera. I know it's not traditionally a top of the mind thing when you think of either governmental entities or workforce development councils, but I just think every organization in 2023 is struggling with how to do better outreach, struggling with their brand messaging, and struggling with getting stakeholders on the same page, and that's all communications. And so, and I think that's going to be a big push for us in 23 and 24 and beyond. So when we look at our strategic plan, the Communications Committee is going to serve a very significant part of that. If you think you can help, then let me know. If you're already sitting on another committee where you feel like you're better suited on the Communications Committee, let me know. But we will be looking for ways to bolster the team and the skill sets that are a part of that committee. So, and if you know people who have those skills around the state, who perhaps would be valuable members who are looking to have a well of participants, so that if we or council potential candidates, so that if we need to move, we can move quickly to fill any empty seats or vacancies. Did I say that okay, Danny?
Yeah, that sounded great.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you for taking the lead with that subcommittee. I'm excited to see the things that are going to come out of that. So, all right, great. Next gen sector partnerships and career pathways.
I'll take this one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We discussed the Next Gen Academy coming up on 3/23 in Lander. So active participants, if you want to be a part of this, registration by the 28th of February, and you can still take part with a free hotel room and things like that. We discussed Skills USA as their statewide conference and competition in Casper, 4/24 through 4/26. Skills USA is really looking for some judges. So if you're going to be in the Casper area on those dates, you can contact Janie Wilcox with Skills USA and offer. They need everything from their leadership competition to their carpentry competition, their welding competition. They need judges in all categories. And it's very impressive to watch these kids. They're very passionate. They're very good at what they do. So if you're available, that would be great. The FBLA and the FCCLA are also looking for judges for their competition in Laramie. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Aldridge, but I believe that was 3/16, 3/17. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So they are also looking for judges to help with their competition in Laramie. Aside from that, we discussed that Gillette has a new partnership, Next Gen Sector Partnership blossoming. A little unclear whether that's manufacturing or construction, but it's great to see a new partnership starting to form up in that area. And we just, we discussed the marketing materials that we've been working on with our grant funding for the construction industry, and discussed that we're rolling that out in Laramie on March 8th with a group of young contractors that will take that to those school districts, and rolling it out March 9th in Casper with a group of young contractors as well. So we're just working through the rough draft formats right now. Hopefully that entire plan will be completed in the next week or so, and be ready for us to roll that out in Laramie and Casper.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Larry. Any comments or questions for Larry? I'll
Mr.
throw in
Chairman.
there. Oh, yes, Robert.
Sorry, Larry, what was the date for the Skills USA in Casper?
So I believe they need judges on 4/24. It's a Monday. That's the primary day for their competitions. And 4/25, they may also have a need, which is a Tuesday.
Okay.
That Tuesday evening in Casper, they have a big career fair where all these students come through. And these are some of the best and brightest. And then Wednesday, the morning of 4/26, is their closing ceremony and their award ceremony and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you. See if I can't help. Oh, and then you said something about, sorry, the construction seminar on March 9th. Would you say that again, please? I know a few young contractors in that part of the world.
March 9th, the Cheyenne Young Contractors, we're going to head up to Casper and meet with a group of those contractors. I don't have a meeting place or a time just yet, but it'll probably be mid-morning on the 9th. And we're just going to roll out these marketing materials, try to get them put together best we can so that they're prepared to take it to their school districts. And it's the initial meeting and the initial presentation of these marketing materials to them.
And is that open to contractors or invite only?
No, open to anybody that wants to participate and help get into the school district. So.
Okay, and I'm just thinking there are contractors in Converse County who may benefit from this, and since Converse is so close to Natrona, obviously, would that be something that would be applicable or apropos for them?
Absolutely, for sure. And if you want to just give them my email address, that would be great. And I'll coordinate with them as we have plans finalized.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Great, thank you. I will just quick update. I don't know, Larry, if you've had a chance to connect with John, but John introduced him to a few folks in Lander here in the attempt to revitalize the healthcare partnership with Fremont County. He's met with them. I sat in on that call. He's done a wonderful job. They're actually moving forward. There will be a team at the academy here from Fremont County. And so we're looking for that to continue to gain some momentum. We're excited about that committee. And Mr. Chairman, just in these marketing materials, you might notice there's no direct reference to next gen sector partnerships necessarily in the marketing materials. And that was a little bit on purpose, just in case something does happen with that relationship down the road, that we don't lose access to these materials. So, understood. Thank you very much. All right. Strategic performance and finance, Mr. Short.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We discussed the upcoming and committed projects, et cetera, and what that amounts to in the current funding cycle. That we basically have somewhere around 352,000 of the 380,000 thereabouts committed, and it's a potentially lowish estimate according to the fabulous Jennifer Cassidy. But there may be around 25K still remaining to commit to investments, which I'm going to refer to rather than expenditures, because it seems like we're expenditure averse and investment averse in our state, and we need to be more investment conscious and willing to invest. We also talked about how those monies are allocated, and that there's an actual flexible kind of methodology involved, that if we see these expenditures that are coming up, we can allocate dollars from different funding years as necessary, depending on how they fall in that timeline. We also talked about next gen and the dollars that are currently planned towards that, and the dollars that are also currently planned in the Workforce Council budget, if you will, and about strategic planning being implemented and the dollars involved in that, because those may not necessarily have been taken into account. So we may have an avenue for us to shift dollars around as necessary as we try to implement some of these ideas that we've come up with in the strategic planning process. We also talked about micro-credentialing specifically in the Department of Education, and maybe they could help us understand and with some updates as how that's progressing, because it seems like those dollars have been sitting there and not being utilized. And of course, being so far removed, we don't know, are they actually being utilized, but they can't be marked off as expended yet because of the timing associated with that credentialing process, just as a for instance. So it might be nice to hear from the Department of Ed how that's moving along and how effective maybe we're being in allocating those dollars. And Mr. Chairman, that was what we covered in the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee. Oh, you're muted, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you, Mr. Short. That sounds like a very productive meeting. I will reach out to Dr. Laurel Ballard, who's kind of spearheaded that on the Department of Ed's behalf on the micro-credentialing. It's as a council, we've been unanimously behind and wanting to support these initiatives, and I'll try to get her to provide us an update. It's certainly a worthwhile effort. As it relates to the strategic plan, very astute. I agree. I think we need to. I would like to be. I think we need to be almost a little impatient in trying to identify with our strategic planning where we believe we're going to need investments, because I know coming out of this, there will be priorities established and funds will need to be applied to it to realize these efforts and these goals and these visions. And so the sooner we can start, and I hope this is in the back of everybody's mind as we move through the strategic planning process, the sooner we can start to identify, put budgets to some of these efforts, the sooner we can understand how many kind of almost discretionary other funds we have available for all the various requests that we receive over the course of the year. So, and we're identifying this as a reason to be. So, so thank you very much for keeping your finger on the pulse of that. But yeah, if we can at some level continue to have that voice there when we do get together to talk about the strategic plan, to identify what these activities are and what budgets we may need, so that we can provide that information to Jennifer so that we can track it. So thank you. Any other questions for the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee team, or anybody else on that team that wants to interject with anything? No? Great. 11:50, look at that. It is 11:50. Public comment. We'll open it up for anyone who has anything that may want to contribute. Director Cooley, how are we still doing on the scorecard in the legislature in the last 24 hours? Anything changed?
I don't think much changed for us.
Okay.
I think we're still looking pretty good, so fingers crossed.
Right on, good. Anybody else with public comment? No? Well, wonderful. And we'll maybe adjourn 11 minutes or 9 minutes early. I don't have anything. I do appreciate everybody's flexibility in jumping on Zoom. Unfortunately, we couldn't get together, but we will here in the spring. We've got a few things coming up. We've got the Safety Summit. We've got the Academy coming up, which is only a month away. We have the quarterly meeting, which will be, what's our next location, Jennifer?
Rock Springs.
We're in wonderful Rock Springs. Ron's going to host us and throw a party for us. Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry, May 10th and 11th. So make sure that's on your calendars. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody then. And no sense to tell you to drive safe. You're already home. So, so everybody have a wonderful day. I'll welcome a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Danny. Robert, thank you for the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.